analysis on security situation in Nigeria and beyond, watch Third Eye Africa TV.
Well, it is a pleasure being with you, our viewers. This is Third Eye Africa TV from Central Business District, Abuja. If you are joining us, we have our guest in the studio who is former Minister of Power, former National President of NIQS, that's Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyor, and currently is the National Secretary of ACF, that is Arewa Consultative Forum. Be with us here in the next 30 minutes. We'll discuss issues bordering security, more especially within the northern part of the country, national unity. We'll look at sundry issues, and we'll go into break, and when we come back, we start dwelling on the issues I mentioned.
For deeper analysis on security situation in Nigeria and beyond, watch Third Eye Africa TV.
Your Excellency, you're welcome to Third Eye Africa TV, and it's a pleasure having you here with us.
Thank you very much.
As National Secretary of ACF, today, if I'm not mistaken, we have about 25 years down the line of ACF. Maybe before we start on the issue of securities, I want you to maybe give us some highlights, especially on the achievements, particularly on the issue of joining hands as one of the cardinal objectives of ACF, joining hands with the government and other authorities to make sure that there's a kind of national unity in the country, particularly development within the northern part of the country. And I believe this 35 years has been a very resourceful years for us, not only in the northern part of the country, but Nigeria at large. Our viewers would like to hear from you 25 years down the line, sir.
Well, thank you very much. It's by coincidence also that 25 years ago I was part of those that started the ACF. Actually, I was the first national auditor when the late IG MD Yusuf was the chairman of the ACF. Now, ACF was set up specifically to protect and project northern interests within the context of a Nigerian federation. And it was set up 25 years ago, to be precise. And the objective, like I said, is just to protect and project the interests of the North. And so far, so good. First of all, we have survived as a body with all the components of the North intact. We have intervened in issues of crisis in part of the North. We were ahead in resolving issues around Chief Jukun and Jukun Kuteb, issues around Taraba and Benue. We've also intervened in quite a number of skirmishes here and there to ensure that we have unity in the country. We've visited states, we've visited areas of tension and so on. And we also advise government appropriately on issues. We've had committees that address the issues of education, issue of security, issue of unemployment of youth, issue of unity, and all these committees are functioning. We've also participated strategically and effectively during the reconciliation committee that was set up by Obasanjo to reconcile the country after all the crises we had June 12 and so on. I can't remember the name of the commission. Justice Oputa panel. Yes. So these were things that we had done, in addition to keeping the fire burning.
All right, sir. I think, like you mentioned, there are so many interventions, particularly on the issues of security. And you cited an example of a kind of conflict resolution intervention in part of the Benue, and northern part of the country has been, or rather become, a kind of hotbed of sort of criminalities. And like you said, part of the intervention is on the educational development. We made to understand that the resurgence of the Boko Haram, the banditry, kidnappings, and other things of the kind, so you understand, has grossly affected a kind of northern part of the country in issues like education in particular, because you understand that most of the schools, because of the school abduction in Katsina, Zamfara, part of Maiduguri, which started from Chibok and other things, you understand. Most of the parents decided, for the fear of their children being kidnapped, decided not to send their children to schools. And if you look at the street in the northern part of the country, people have become, maybe due to the push factor, beggars on the street. Most of the children that are supposed to be in the classroom are now roaming the street, and as a kind of a non-state actor, which has been a very good, or rather cardinal driver for good governance. I believe, like you started mentioning, ACF has done a lot to make sure that these things have been addressed more, especially the issue of the effect or ripple effect of Boko Haram banditry on education. I don't know, maybe you can shed light on the part of the interventions ACF have done to that effect.
Yes. First of all, we must appreciate the position, or rather the peculiar location of the North when it comes to the Western education. From the beginning, the North was far behind. At the time the North got its own first graduate, in the South, maybe you have somebody's grandfather who was a graduate. Our first graduate came in 1939. Our second graduate in the whole North came in 1950. That's the story of education in the North. So we were less status. Efforts have been made. So far, so good. Today, Northern Nigeria can boast of a number of doctorates and professors beyond quite a number of countries. So we thank God. But the problem is not resolved yet. A lot more work has to be done by both the national and subnational governments, and also the private initiatives and the non-governmental efforts all have to come into education. Now, the issue of security did not affect only education. It affected quite a number of things, including food production and so on. But let's maintain the lane on education. Yes, the North was under siege. Were disadvantaged from the beginning, and schools have been shut because of insecurity. Some have been relocated. For instance, from the state where I come from, Gombe State, the whole northern senatorial district has no boarding school apart from those inside Gombe, because they all had to be closed down because of insecurity. And Gombe is not actually an epicenter of insecurity. So you can see the story of the North. And gladly, the various governments are making efforts to do that. But I think they need to do more. In the year 2000, then Vice President Atiku Abubakar had set up a committee to come up under Professor Adeombeki to come up with a blueprint on education in the country. The governors actually in the North were not very enthusiastic about the buy-in. And I also recall that Professor Yao Abubakar also headed another committee on education. So there are efforts from the ACF to bring attention of governments, like I say, at both national and subnational level, to address the peculiarity of education in the North and ensure that at least we are catching up with the country and also with the contemporary world. So a committee has been set up and will soon be inaugurated to review all the previous works and advise governments, especially state governments, on how to address this issue. We have a population problem. There are too many children on the streets. Most of the after-school children in Nigeria are from the North. So these are matters of concern to all of us.
Well, thank God, sir, you mentioned the issue of out-of-school children. In recent times, particularly in Kano State, there was a kind of nasty story that a kind of Islamic security outfit, that's Hizbah, headed by renowned Islamic scholar Mala Aminu Daurawa, went on a kind of operation which spanned between 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. And the finding was so gloomy because he said clearly that within that time, they got about 200 street children sleeping under the bridge
Almost
and all
300.
that. Almost 300, thank God. And sadly, two of them were even found dead. You understand? Till today, I don't know, but none of the parents of those children claim responsibility of being
Actually,
a father of these children. You know, this thing is spelling bad for the country. And
actually, if some parents know that their children will be picked on the streets, they will throw them out on the streets. So the issue is not even the education issue. The out-of-school children is actually a population explosion issue. It's a social structuring issue. Whether we like it or not, in the north, we have to manage the sizes of our families. A lot of parents give birth to children. I know when the first lady then, Mrs. Jonathan, said we give birth to children and throw on the streets, it was taken in a very harsh light. But the truth is that, yes, we have children that parents just abandon and they're on the streets and the parents don't care. So I think there must be consequences for that. Authorities, in trying to address the issue of education, should also look at this social dimension to it and put a structure, either through the traditional structure, the religious structures, or whatever, to address that issue, where parents must take responsibility of the children they bring to this world. Otherwise, today, look, I think Dora himself said it, that he hopes that some more parents will not be throwing children out on the streets because they are going to be picked by government. He gave an example that one of the boys picked said for the first time in his life, he slept on a mattress and he covered himself with a blanket. So the story is pathetic. But I think the approach is not even about the education aspect. It's about the social setting that we must address our social situation.
So I know actually you've been liaising with Northern State governors to address these menaces and myriad of problems, particularly the one you just mentioned. But I don't know, if you look at the policies formulation by our Northern governors, in the same Kano where these children were being picked off, the government is setting out about 2.5 billion naira to get people married, you understand? And people were just lamenting. If at the end of the day we are picking children on the street, and people initially doesn't have a kind of financial muscles to get married, and instead of government, if you look at the southern part of the country, 2.5 billion naira the governors are injecting into the economy, you understand? But in the northern part of the country, where we have these street children, the same government is injecting over 2.25 billion naira to get people married. And these are the kind of people. How do you expect a person that cannot get money to get to marry, and at the end of the day can take care of his own children and maybe take responsibility as a father? You mentioned that part of the problems are because the children are lacking the parental guidance.
Yes, I don't know what informed the judgment of the Kano State government to sponsor marriages. Possibly they are trying to address one social menace, the moral dimension. But like I said, it's not just Kano. I think the whole north, especially in the rural areas, parents must begin to take responsibility of the children they bring to this earth. I am not even sure that government is primarily responsible. I think the people are, but government must guide and ensure that it's like when we're making sure that you pay tax, we're doing tax reform and so on. Government must make sure that if you marry and you bring up a child, or you bring out a child to this world, you must take care of that child, okay? And when they grab children on the streets, I think it's not the children they should rehabilitate first. They should go and get the parents and rehabilitate them. and make sure that they either go to prison or suffer some sanction for having their own children roaming the streets. I think that's where we start from, so that people will not be careful how many children they bring out. You find a family where there may be just 2 rooms, husband and wife, and they have 7, 8, 9 children. And some of them don't even have where to sleep in their own houses. So these are issues that we must address. It's not a joke. So as governments are making contribution for people to marry, they should also make sure that they sensitize the people enough to know that there is a responsibility as an outcome of marriages.
On the same issue, apart from all these street children and other things, in Gombe State, where you come from, there was a report, was it day before yesterday, by National Human Rights Commission on the same issue about 127 parents, or rather children, abandoned by their own parents. And in Gombe, Bauchi, Kano, we have cases, several cases of children being picked from the street in the northern part of the country and sold out in the southern part of the country. And we have pending cases where even some parents who identify their children cannot even, at the end of the day, test the custody of the children because of some legal issue here and there. And I remember vividly a case of about 2 children out of 12 who were being stolen from Gombe and sold out to, was it Anambra or Abia, somewhere in the southern part of the country. And these are things that are adding up to our social problems.
Yes, like that's why I said, when we're talking about out-of-school children, it's not just basically an education issue. It's a social structuring issue. And one of the, I was aware of the cases in Gombe. One of the peculiar things is that one of the persons that was found to be carrying out the trade actually sold his own child. Himself. So if he can sell his child, he can sell anybody's child.
Yes.
So, I mean, apart from that criminal dimension, that's why I'm saying sensitization issues are important. And the traditional institutions are very, very key in this respect. But just like we're addressing out-of-school children, we must address the social aspect to these family issues. You know, people believe that their children are wealth to family. But when children become a liability to the families and they throw them out on the street, then it becomes a problem. So people must have, if you can afford to raise only 1 child, have 1 child for God's sake. If you can afford to have 2, have 2. But you can't bring 7 or 8 or 9 or 15 when you know you can't take care of 2 or 3. So this issue.
All right, before we go into our next issue, which is about tax reform, which has been a controversial issue in the nation, I think we take a break, and when we come back, we take this part of the discussion.
Thank you.
For deeper analysis on security situation in Nigeria and beyond.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, we are here with Malam Murtala Aliyu, former minister of, former national president of NIQS, former, or rather, presently the national secretary of ACF, that's Arewa Consultative Forum. Your Excellency, before we go on break, I mentioned the issue of tax reform, which has been a very burning issue, particularly where the maybe part of the northern leaders, particularly the religious leaders, ACF religious leaders, captain of the industry, stood up against the tax reform. But recently, I made to understand that ACF has set up a 10-man committee to review the policies and advise the ACF before they take a final decision. But even as that, recently, the governors of the 19 northern states had in Kaduna and a kind of give support to the tax reform bill. Though there was a kind of give and take, to my understanding, which maybe look at the sharing formula, 50% for equality, 30% based on the derivation, and 20% based on population. I don't know whether that is maybe accepted by the ACF, or the ACF is still waiting for the submission of the 10-man committee set up by the organization.
Well, let me first of all say that the committee has finished its work. It has been generated, and the report has been formally submitted to the National Assembly. We've given the House of Representatives 200 copies for northern members. We've given the Senate 60 copies. We've also given 150 copies to northern governors. We've given the emirs and chiefs in the northern Nigeria 100 copies. We've also given other northern groups and so on. Now, principally, maybe, so it has been done already. And I would have come with a copy for you, but I have the physical copy in the office. But that's not where the issue is. I think let's go back to the bill itself. There's nothing wrong with reforms. And I think that our tax system needed to have been reformed. I think why the problem came was that there was no buy-in. The government was too much in a hurry. They didn't bring in the stakeholders to review the situation. Yeah, this is why the problem was. And the committee went through the 4 draft bills and came up with the observation. But basically, there are 5 contentious issues. First of all, whether it is all right to even increase taxes at this time. If you can improve the assessment of tax, identification of people that ought to have paid tax, improve the assessment, and improve the collection, I think Nigeria will go a long way, even at the state it is now. So I think that is one area that needs to be addressed. The second thing is the issue of VAT. VAT is a consumption tax. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, and this bill exposed the whole thing. If I have a transaction now, a financial transaction with my bank or through my bank, the VAT that is paid to the headquarters of the bank, which is based in Lagos. If I make a phone call and there's VAT paid, the VAT is going to the headquarters of the service provider. So you find that places like Lagos, where most companies are situated, actually, gather most of the tax. And so if you're going to use that as derivation, then it's no more a consumption tax. Now, if it's a consumption tax, it should be the derivation will be at the point of consumption. So if you make a phone call in Jalingo, in Taraba State, the portion of that VAT should go to Jalingo.
Be domiciling.
So that when they submit it, the portion that goes to derivation should be that. And normally in sharing issues, it's not the tax office that shares, it's the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission tax. So don't move what is not there to where it is not. So the best thing is to leave the issue of sharing to the Revenue Mobilization. You can make a proposal and send it to the Revenue Mobilization area, but not to put it under some tax arrangement. Now, the VAT, again, became a contentious because at 7.5%, is in some cases, in some countries, you say it's low, but in a country where efficiency plays, in a place where immediately you pick your phone, call 911, the ambulance or the police will come. In a case where you take your children to school almost free, the school bus will be there. In a country where you go to the hospital and get attended to, you should be able to pay 15%. But we're not there yet. Most of us in Nigeria today use private initiatives to educate our children, to get sales services, to even power our houses and so on. Okay, so I think 7% or 7.5% is still okay. So increasing it, especially in an economy where inflation is going high and the economy is a bit tight on people, I think maintaining that figure is okay. That's one of our recommendations. Secondly, on the issue of sharing, I've already said, look, the mechanism to determine the location of consumption has to be developed so that there can be equity in the spread of that. And thirdly, on the issue of VAT, it's also the issue of what items are vatable. All that should be issues that should be addressed so that when we are now talking about derivation, it can be addressed easily. Again, and I don't know why population takes a lower end, because consumption is a population-based thing.
Yes.
But well, if it, like you say, give and take, okay, let that go. The other aspect of the bill that needed some attention was the issue of this family capital gain tax, which actually is an inheritance tax brought in another way. In my own religion, Islam, it has prescribed clearly in the Quran. And for me, in the Quran, it means it is not negotiable.
Yes.
The issue of inheritance. And it didn't list government as one of the inheritors. So we said, look, leave that alone. Since a person pays tax before dying, as it comes to inheritance issue.
Yes.
So that should be fine. Whatever is left for his estate, the progeny also will now pay tax after collecting and the course of the activity. So I think that aspect should be taken out completely. And the issue of now domiciling the power of the tax agency under the chairman, like you have in the central bank, where the chairman of the tax authority will also be the chairman of the board, and so on. I think that too would be a big mistake. So these are the observations that were raised. We agree with that there should be a reform. We agree that our tax system should be put together in a very neater way. But we also say that, look, this aspect should be attained. And for the governors, the Nigerian governors sat down and raised almost the same similar issues. The only thing they did was to make recommendation on the formula. We didn't make any recommendation on the formula. We're saying that, look, equity should be the key word in the issue of the formula. And the document is ready. We can send you a copy. Have an e-copy after the program. I'll send it to you.
Oh, I'll be happy to have it and take a look.
Okay.
And finally, before we close this program, Your Excellency is being a former minister and one-time gubernatorial aspirant in Gombe State. You've been so low about politics. Is it you are retiring or you are tired? Because people will be expecting the name sound very strong, especially from Gombe State. Like I said, being one-time minister, being one time or 2 times a gubernatorial aspirant, it's like you're not been so active, though you've been a secretary of ACF, which is non-partisan. So maybe that may be your bottleneck, or people will be happy to hear from you.
Basically, I'm a quantity surveyor by profession. And after the first hit, I realized that I probably will do better in my own profession. So I went back and, move on to become the president of my institute. And also I was president of the regulatory body for 6 years. And as for the ACF, it's a general social concern, general political concern, general economic concern of the North. And I thought maybe I'll play a role there. Now, partisan politics or running for offices has now been compromised, that the yardstick or the criteria for looking for an office is actually material or affluence that one has.
Person.
Yes, not your capacity, not your ability, not your moral ground, not your character. And if these are not the criteria, I don't want to be part of any arrangement where that will not play a role. So I am not saying that people in politics don't have character or they don't have any capacity or ability or whatever. But I'm saying that I personally would not, for instance, go and raise, for instance, 10 billion naira to contest,
Just for you to come and
contest for an office that is not a business. I'm not going there to grab money and so on. And but that's expected by the people that I'm also that kind of money. So I think as long as we continue with the politics of money, a lot of decent minds will try and keep a low profile. And I hope Nigeria will now move away from that. If you want to contest, the society that requires you, that believe that you are fit to rule them, should be able to gather enough resources for you to be able to run the campaign. And not you taking money from either your business or from your pocket or from your personal friends who will come later on and ask for the benefits of office.
Finally, sir, being a former minister of power again, and power sector has been one of the sector of the economy that has been bedeviled with a lot of inadequacies, a lot of corruption here and there. And since the day you left office till today, Nigerians have been yearning for a kind of steady power supply. We, of recent times, had a kind of policy where a kind of subsidy was removed from power. And going beyond that, I think there was increment on the energy charge and other things. And till today, we had issues of this grid collapsing, a lot of things. As we speak now, the power, or rather Kaduna Electric distribution staff were on strike. A lot of things are happening. Where is the problem, sir?
I think the issue of power would require a whole session. And I've had series of outings before, and I've made very clear statements about the power. We are not addressing the issues that they should be. We're making substantial, considerable investment in power, and the citizens are also spending a lot of money on energy, and we are not getting it right. So what is wrong in what we're doing? I think should be the issue that we should discuss. And they are in all the categories. In the issue of generation, there are issues. In the issue of transmission, which is the issue of grid collapse and so on, there are major issues. And the issue of distribution, where the new companies that bought power, Gencos, I know, not Gencos, the Discos.
Discos, I mean.
Yeah, the Discos also didn't know what they were buying, and there are issues there that need to be addressed. And the commercial dimension. The commercial dimension in a number of ways. One, the appropriateness of the tariff of the power. Secondly, the efficiency in recovering your money from consumers, and thirdly, the collection aspect from among workers and the theft of power. These are in the commercial dimension. So all the four need to be addressed. But I can tell you, the way we're going today, if we continue along that line, we will not be able to solve this problem.
We pray we'll get it right, because we made to believe that without power we're going nowhere.
Maybe we need to have a separate session for power, and then take it from the challenges in generation, challenges in transmission, challenges in distribution, and the commercial dimension.
Next time we're inviting you, sir, we can extensively discuss issue of power.
Yes.
And we thank you so much for being with us. And our viewers, if you are just joining us, we've been with Malam Murtala Aliu, who is Matawalem Gombe, presently the National Secretary of ACF, former Minister of Power, former President NIQS. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. Thank you, our viewers, for being with us.
Thank you very much.
For deeper analysis on security situation in Nigeria and